folks, we are here with Gary, the founder of the
Kuimba Shiri, and that means the singing birds in Shona.
The Singing Bird Sanctuary is a wonderful place, worth visiting. We are next to the Chivero Lake.
Lake Chivero.
Lake Chivero.
It was named after the local chief in the area, but before that, when it was built in 1952 as the water supply for Harare. Well, back then it was Salisbury. And then, of course, it was called Lake McIlwain, and now it is called Lake Chivero.
Lake McIlwain.
McIlwain.
Is that the surname? Or?
It was a man's surname. He was a water and an engineer in the area back in the 1950s. So in the 1952, it was the biggest man-made dam in the southern hemisphere built out of soil. So the wall is built out of concrete, but the weir is built out of concrete, but the wall is out of soil, and it was built in 1952. So it's 9 kilometers wide and 14 kilometers long.
Right, it's a big one. Big one. Is it a reservoir for drinking water for the capital of Zimbabwe, Harare?
Correct. This is where the water comes from, but the problem is that we are 300 meters lower than Harare, so all the rainwater and everything that comes from Harare comes here. I'm just looking out at the distance there. You can see my horses galloping along the shoreline.
Your horses. Let me just show the viewers as well where exactly we are. The wonderful.
I see them right in the distance galloping, or those zebras coming. I'm not sure.
Zebras coming here.
Can you see them in the far distance there?
I see some animal galloping there by the cottage.
I think those are zebra actually.
Right.
Coming galloping back. Correct.
Right, zebras are coming here as well, guys.
Yeah.
Folks, please do subscribe to Zupa Vlog channel and watch the new series from Zimbabwe in Africa. I unexpectedly ended up spending 3 weeks in Zimbabwe, so I had a lot of time to explore the Shona tribe, the main group in Zimbabwe, its tradition, its culture, its music, its food, its oral and different traditions like the snuff. It's called Butri Motare. It's tobacco-based snuff, known for its spiritual importance and healing properties. There is no Shona music without the imbira. Imbira is a magical instrument, and the sound will connect you with your ancestors. I traveled through Zimbabwe to look for interesting places, unknown traditions, and fascinating people. I linked up with unknown locals to understand the world even deeper. The quality of meat in Africa, it's outstanding. The beef I've eaten was the best beef I've ever had in my life. I've eaten chicken feet, I've eaten cow feet, and I've eaten a lot of suds, and I still can't get enough of it. At Kuimba Shiri and Lake Chivero, I've met Gary, who told me about his birds, and I've met other white guys there who told me their stories. In this series, we will also try to find out the phenomena of the Johannesburg church without a church. Join my adventure around this beautiful country where the national parks with wildlife makes the most of its territory. But for me, it was the people of Zimbabwe that made that trip truly outstanding. Folks, please subscribe to my channel, like my vlogs, and comment on them as well. Enjoy now my African adventure.
Well, that's a long story. When I was a little boy, I kept a lot of birds. I always kept birds and horses and so on. And then when my son was born, I bought the land here. That was in 1991. And I bought the land so that I could just build my house and live here. And then I thought, wow, this is it's a beautiful place, and that's where I want to be. So instead of building my house over here where the restaurant is, I decided to build a restaurant and then start building a bird park, because I had a lot of injured birds already that I'd been collecting since 1984. And I had all these birds, and then what happened was BBC asked me to train some eagles for documentaries. So so that was it was a compliment, a big compliment, and I enjoyed doing that. And then I thought, from here, just training birds for documentaries, fine. And then people are coming in watching me exercising my birds every day, and then slowly but surely, then I thought, you know what? I want to share this with friends. And then I decided to build a bird park. And from there, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And up to 2002, I had over 2,000 birds here. But then, of course, we had a lot of issues, political issues. And then I moved 1,000 birds to South Africa. In 2010, we had a major food problem in Zimbabwe, economic meltdown, and a lot of my birds died then because we couldn't feed them. And then in 2020 things started picking up again, and we started being able to fix things and adjust things, and now we're surviving. But of course the biggest problem that we have now is the lake.
So why is the lake the biggest problem?
Well, like I said, the lake is 300 meters lower than Harare, and unfortunately our administration, the people, the mayor and the whole of the council have neglected in maintaining the treatment plants that feed into the lake. And because all the sewage treatment plants have collapsed and broken down, they're pumping raw sewage into the lake. And about 5 years ago, I warned them. I said, we're going to hit a disaster soon if you don't rectify what you're doing now. And then a year and a half ago, I took a whole lot of editors and media on the lake, and I showed them the extent of the pollution. And they were shocked, but of course they did nothing, which is quite typical, actually, which is unfortunate. And then what happened was in November last year, 4 rhino died from drinking the water out of the lake.
Rhinos?
4 white rhino died. And then the national park came and removed the other rhino from here. They took him to a safe place, and then that was in October last year, November. And then we started making a huge noise about the pollution because nobody cared, the officials. And then last year a rhino died, zebra died, wildebeest died, and a lot of birds died. And then the officials still did nothing. And we've got methods of repairing it, but they've still done nothing. And then we came right through to this year, to about 4 weeks ago. We went on the lake and we had a big cleanup campaign of picking up plastic and bottles and nets and so on. And we removed quite a lot, about 5 tons of plastic. And while we were out in the bush there, we found zebra dead, giraffe dead, impala dead, baboons dead, and more than 25 birds dead as well. And the water was green, like thick green. Anyway, we came back, and because of the urgency and the absolute desperation, we then went and called a number of people, and we formed the Chivero revival campaign.
Right.
So we've had a lot of media coming out here recently to cover the Chivero revival campaign. And then this last Friday, we had another cleanup of plastic and nets along the lake. And we had 350 volunteers from Harare, and we moved over 27 tons of plastic and waste.
Plastic around.
People are, unfortunately in Zimbabwe, the culture of consumption, I call it, consumption and greed has got beyond. So they drink everything and they throw the can on the ground. You know, in other countries, they take pride in their nation and they clean up. They consume something, but put it in a bag. Take it away with you. Here, they just throw it everywhere, and that's the problem. That's one problem. So we have having a drought at the moment. The lake is 5 meters lower than it should be.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And that is why there's such a huge problem with the plastic and everything. So we are pushing to clean up the lake, clear it out, and then we also want to treat the lake with, they call them enzymes. And with barley, we can treat the lake in areas so the animals can have fresh water. And then when the rain does come, it'll come in and it'll be able to clean the lake. So we will get this lake back to what it should be. Unfortunately, we're waiting for the authority to say, okay, you can clean the lake. Can you imagine? You have to wait for them to say you can clean it. Incredible. And it's taken, one company's been trying for 14 years and they haven't been given authority yet.
To clean the lake. Oh.
Can you imagine? I mean, it's incredible. Anywhere else in the world, they would beg you to clean the lake. Here, oh well, let's talk about it. Let's have another conference. We'll see.
All right. Thank you for giving us the insight about the Lake Chivero. Gary, but you have a very interesting personal story. You actually are a Dutch descendant, right? From the Boers that came from South Africa.
Yeah. When we were having a lot of political issues here during the Mugabe regime, we many times they tried to take this property. Some people were trying to take the property for whatever reason they came up with, and we've been fortunate enough to stay. We lost other properties, but my family, people say, oh, go back to Britain, because of course a lot of Africa don't like what the British have done, or should I say the English, because there's a big difference. And for us as white Africans, my family go back over 300 years in southern Africa. We escaped Europe when the Catholic Church was persecuting people in Europe.
Was it the Huguenots?
The Huguenots, correct. Oh. But at the same time, people went to America, and they called them pilgrims in America, and they came to southern Africa, getting away from the church there. And so they came to the southern tip of Africa as Boers, in fact they were Dutch, and then of course Germans came in as well a bit later, and the French as well, and they formed a colony of the Cape. And then the British came along, or the English came along, and said, oh, we see a strategic value here, and then they occupied the Cape. And the Dutch, or the Boers by then, moved away from the British. They were trying to escape the British because the British were taxing them. And they crossed over the Orange River, and they called it the Orange Free State, because they were free from the British.
Right.
The problem was then they discovered diamonds there, and the British came again. And the Boers went across to the Transvaal, across the Vaal River, and then they discovered gold there, and the British came again. Okay, so there were a couple of wars, the Boer War, which made it really interesting. And you know what? We look at some of the things the Nazis did during the Second World War, and we say, oh, how atrocious. But a lot of people don't realize that the English did that to black and white people in southern Africa in the 1800s, long before the Nazis. So as a result of that, a lot of people supported Germany during the Second World War.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because of what the British did.
The British, yeah. The Boers were supporting the Nazis because
they
chance to get free from
they actually never got a chance to support the Germans. They eventually had a referendum and went and fought on the side of Britain,
Oh, there was a referendum in
Correct.
Southern Africa. Was there Rhodesia in that time?
Well, no, Rhodesia was a separate country.
So the referendum was in South Africa.
It was in South
Are you
Africa.
going to support Germany or allies? Allies.
Correct, correct.
And
So they went to go supported Britain because Britain promised them independence if they fought on the side of.
I see.
And they offered the same thing to Rhodesia as well. But then, of course, they lied about Rhodesia, and that led to being in Rhodesia. There was a referendum again, and we declared unilateral independence from Britain in 1965. And that was when Britain and basically the whole world turned to fight Rhodesia because we told the British to get out of here.
All right, on the Rhodesian side.
On the Rhodesian side.
The whole world was supporting the Rhodesian independence movement.
No, they were against the Rhodesians
Right.
because Britain is a world power,
Right, they had
and we
influence.
told the British to get out.
Yeah, there was a war, isn't there? There
And-
was a, did your family take part in that conflict as well?
I did. I was
did
part
yourself?
of it. Yes. Yeah, I went into the Rhodesian army when I was 16 years old. So we were basically, because of the United Nations and Britain and America being big shots in the UN imposed sanctions on this little
yeah.
country. At the same time, the Russians were supplying one of the guerrilla armies called ZAPU with weapons. At the same time, China was supplying weapons to Zanla as well. So this little country was fighting not only the United Nations, but also China and Russia,
All right, there were three different enemies for you.
all fighting against here, okay? And in 1980, after 15 years of civil war,
15 years of civil war.
the white people went to have a referendum again and then voted for black majority rule. So it wasn't won because of a war, it was won from an election. So we had a peaceful transition over. And that is where a lot of people, the propaganda said, we won a war. Well, no. We had a referendum and voted for majority rule. And that was quite a big thing back then because, we had a peaceful end, but a lot of people were killed for not very much.
I see.
Okay.
How many people were actually on the Rhodesian side at that point?
Do you know what was amazing is for me it was never ever a racial war, because some of my best friends, in fact, were black people. My next door neighbor in Mablerain was a black man, Mr. Mpofu. A very good friend of mine, Mr. Mtabanadzo. I call him Mr. Mpofu or Mr. Mtabanadzo because they were older than me, and it's my sign of respect. So it wasn't a racial war, which people love to make it sound like it was. And that is to suit their own political gains. And we see this all around the world. Look at America. Everything there is based on racial, or whether you're gay, lesbian, it's about dividing people. For me personally, and a lot of my friends and colleagues, it was about us not wanting to become like Zambia, like Mozambique, like Kenya was, where the countries were actually from very, very wealthy, very affluent, rich countries, well educated, good health systems, good everything. Apart from elections, they were broken down, and this country had the highest education, the highest cost standard of living in the whole of Africa. In fact, we were higher than Australia.
Yeah, I've heard that it was one of the best places to live in the 70s.
Absolutely, and that's what we fought against, is the destruction and the evidence here of Chivero. This was, and the treatment plants there were all world-class standard. but we've neglected it for 45 years. We've neglected it, and that's what we fought against.
All right, Gary. So interesting to talk to you. You are a source of knowledge. I met you here accidentally, really, because I'm staying next door, but you give me the insight of the Zimbabwean history and the perspectives from the white person. How is it to be white now in Zimbabwe?
Do you know, I've always, well, when the invasions were on, it was very difficult because there was a small group. And even during the war, there's a small group of people that wanted to fuel racism here. But the majority of the people, both during the war and afterwards, and now, are very peaceful, very happy, very generous, just the nicest people you can come across. And I'm sure in your travels around here, that's what you will see. You'll see generous, nice, healthy. And it's not just because you're white or anything, it's because that's generally what a Zimbabwean is. Whether he's black or white or even Chinese now, generally they are very, very, very nice people. So what's it like to be a white person in Zimbabwe? Well, is it any different to my black colleagues? No? We all the same.
Yeah. Because you said earlier on that you've never been out of Africa, and you say you don't see the reason why going there.
I've never been, I'm 66, going on 67 years old now. Never been outside. I've traveled Zimbabwe, Namibia, Botswana, a little bit in Zambia, Mozambique. And my sister lives in England, and she said, when are you going to come visit? I said, what for? We are the most fortunate people in the world to be here.
It's absolutely amazing for me. I came from Europe a couple of days ago, and because of the altitude, how high we are here?
We're 1,500 meters above sea level.
And I think that's the reason why the climate is quite friendly. It's actually quite just
perfect.
Perfect for the
It's
human
perfect.
being.
And in winter it gets a little colder, and then now October it gets a little warmer, but it's beautiful. It's glorious.
It is. You know what? I appreciate that you actually see this. You appreciate it by living here. A lot of people live in the place and they don't see the good points of it. But maybe because they don't live in Zimbabwe. You know?
Well, you know, I look at this and where we're sitting here on this land in 1902, which is what, 123 years ago. The farmer who came here, the white farmer who came here and bought this bit of land from the British government back then, because you could buy commercial land. He started the first Virginia tobacco farm outside of America, was here in 1902.
Wow.
And then in 1905, that same farmer was producing hybrid maize. And that hybrid maize became the maize that made this country the breadbasket, and I'm sure you've heard that while you've been here, the breadbasket of Africa. That hybrid maize, and that was started here on this farm 123 years ago. 123 years ago. And then, of course, they built the lake here in 1952. So that's when they sectioned off areas for recreation and the national park.
Right.
So that's quite interesting.
What exactly is hybrid maize?
Where he was crossbreeding types of maize to make it hardier and more compatible with our environment, breeding different types of maize to make it stronger and more resilient in our climate.
All right, and that was like the biggest export it took off.
Yeah, exactly. It became one of the... In fact, in 1975, I think it was, before independence, this country produced more grain than any other country in the world, and was second biggest tobacco producer in the world in 1972. Can you imagine?
Incredible, because it's
It
not
is,
that
because
big.
it's not a huge country. And and the land was sectioned off. So there was, and you could look at the government land classification maps. The land during Rhodes's day, large sections were set up for tribal areas. And we only had a small population back then. And then other land was set for commercial value. So commercial meant black and white could buy in those areas. Tribal areas, only black people from those particular tribes could occupy that. And then of course there was state land and national park land. But the land classification map is available to people who want to have a look at it. So when people come and say, oh, the whites owned 80% of the land in Zimbabwe, well, that was never, ever, ever, ever true. It's just a political stunt to justify what they've done. It's not true. It's not accurate. It was land. The land, they might have owned large parts of the commercial farmland, not tribal land or forestry land.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic.
It's interesting, our history.
I know a lot about Zimbabwe. Country, not a big country, and not many of us know actually about the history of Zimbabwe. Gary, can you tell us more about yourself? What your hobbies, except birds, obviously. Do you have any other hobbies? Because I don't think you've got time for it.
Well, yeah, that is a problem. Well, I grew up here, obviously, not on this property, but around. My father used to take me across the lake when, look at the big leguan over there coming out of the water.
Oh, yeah. Let me get that.
Like a crocodile. Always enjoyed being outside in the country, in the bush, boating, fishing, and so on. And my father used to take me across there when I was 11 years old, 12 years old. Dropped me there with my friend in the bush with a tent and a little canoe, and we used to paddle right to the opposite side, which is about 9 kilometers away, and go fishing and come back. And he'd drop us off on a Monday and pick us up on a Friday.
Oh wow!
Wasn't
afraid to.
As an 11-year-old. Then I look at our generation of children nowadays, and I shake my head at them because they are totally useless. The mothers are looking after them, wiping their noses every step of the way, instead of allowing little boys to become little boys and those little boys become men. And I look at parents now and I just think, and they say, oh, you mustn't go here because there might be some problem, or like a lady there, oh, the birds are out. Well, I don't know what's wrong with you, It's
people are not exposed.
No,
like they
no,
used to be.
but they should be. And I often say, my ancestors from the Cape to here is over 2,000 kilometers. And they walked behind ox wagons and they rode horses all that distance. I've just had a friend who rode a horse from here to Windhoek in Namibia. And then from Windhoek he's ridden down to the Cape Point.
That's a long trip.
One man by himself with one horse. Okay.
That's really
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Now that is the kind of men you want, as opposed to some of the things you see in Europe, and I say things because that's what they are.
Right. So,
Yeah.
you like the nature, and you were always like the outdoor
Absolutely.
person.
And I take care of animals, take care of birds. Look, I've also hunted a lot. At first, I used to shoot a lot of things, okay? And that's part of growing up, it's part of it. But then I got involved with falconry, training eagles and falcons for hunting.
Right, you do that as well.
That's my hobby.
Maybe you can show us a little bit later on.
And then so for falconry, you train dogs, and then I keep horses as well. I love horse riding. So those are all the things that make me who I am.
All right. You don't mind me asking, what were you doing? Was your job?
Before, well, I left the military in 1982. 1982, left the military. I then went and got an apprenticeship I became an electrician. And then I looked at this and then I started my own company. But at the same time, I always had my birds and horses as my hobbies. And then I bought this property because my business was good. And I decided that I'm going to live here. And then because I was living here and I was having my birds and so on, people started coming to watch me flying my birds and exercising and horses as well. And it took about 3 years, and then I decided that I'll build a bird park instead of just living here. And that's what I did. I built a bird park, and now people come from all over to see what we're doing. And of course, because I'm very much involved with trying to protect this beautiful area and try to look after it, not just for me, but for my grandchildren when they come, then it's important that that somebody stands up and tells the truth. Because when you look around at the world's news, the majority of it is fake, and they're just pushing climate change and stories like this, and I'm just like, are you serious? I can't believe.
It's always been up and down.
Yes, of course. We've always had, well, they said global warming and then global freezing, and now we made mistakes there, so let's just call it climate change. So, but it will go like this because everything moves up and down anyway. We had the coronavirus. And when that happened here in Zimbabwe, I said, this is just a con that Europe is trying to push on everybody, and China and the rest. Just a con, and that's exactly what we know it to be. Yes, some people, but here in Zimbabwe, it didn't affect us whatsoever.
No, there was no deaths.
You know what I did? Is I followed what we do for our animals, and we followed our own medication. If I'm prepared to use some of the medication on my birds and my animals, then I must be prepared to use it for myself.
Right.
Because they are far more valuable than I am to me.
Right.
Okay, so when it came to treatments, we had ivermectin, and we had F10 as a disinfectant, as a nebulizer, and not one of any of our community died of corona. They got sick. We had a cold or a flu. Treated ourselves. Bang, we were okay. And with God and the sunshine and fresh air outside here, no wonder people died in England. They're living in a little box on top of each other, like little rabbits in a cage. Yeah.
Was the vaccination did you have to take the vaccination, or was it a voluntary thing?
It was a voluntary thing, but they've tried to force it. They try to push, like in some countries, they force people to do it. We avoided it because it was logical. And think about it. Who created the coronavirus? The pharmaceutical companies. Who's selling you the medicine? Pharmaceutical companies. Who's making the money? They all are. So for me, it was logical that you don't join up and you stay away from it because it's man-made.
Yeah, well,
wasn't it?
But it's over now, and you don't really hear about it. When you said about the corona earlier on, I was like, yeah, you don't hear that word, thanks God, anymore.
You don't, because it doesn't suit them. And they know that people know they were conning everybody.
I see.
And I mean, you look at countries like Australia, where you can't say certain things because it might offend somebody. Or if you're a doctor, you can't say, hey, I think this is better for you. My horses out there, I've got horses there that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And certain people say, you're mandated to vaccinate them against, let's say, equine flu, horse flu. The other one is African horse sickness. You must do it. All it is about keeping the pharmaceutical companies in business to sell you the vaccines. And we know that only 1% of horses ever die from African horse sickness. I mean, from equine flu. 1%.
So it's
But
not
you
a
want-
lot.
Yeah.
You don't think there's
How many
necessary
die
to take
of African horse sickness? In fact, more horses die from the vaccination and from treatment where there are vaccinated horses than out here. My horses, I do not vaccinate.
You do not vaccinate
No,
your horses.
and I
no
got
one
healthy
tells you,
horses.
yeah, I saw them.
My horses are healthy because I don't introduce those pathogens into my environment.
That's wonderful. You having this, I would say, do you have 100 of them, 100 animals? Probably about that.
More, yeah. Well, yeah, more than that. I got. Here come the horses galloping along the shoreline. Look at that. That's how they should be. That's how they should be. They're going to come galloping up along here just now.
You let the drone later on above them. I get a nice.
If you want to do that quickly, but they're going to be coming very fast now.
We will do it.
Watch. They're going to be coming because it's the right time now. They're coming home, yeah. Look how beautiful that is.
You say some of your horses are Polish.
Yeah. Watch, look here they come. So some of my horses are Polish because during the Cold War, city horses, and in Poland, you still got some of the top quality Arabian horses in the world in Poland at the moment.
Are you kidding? I thought
No.
the business died out.
No, not at all. I just saw a friend of mine just bought a horse from Poland, cost 400,000 euro.
Arab one,
Arabian.
Arabian one. Wow.
Look at this, here he comes.
Poland, but I don't know these things. Lost soul.
And you see my horses.
That's amazing, you know.
My horses run straight through the restaurant. 20 horses come galloping through. Eh?
What an experience! What an experience! It's like different world, you know. I wasn't expecting to experience this.
Hey, come on. He's calling everybody. Very often they all come galloping inside here. That's how they should be.
Amazing. What a place. Gary, if somebody's watching this and is thinking, yeah, I would love to visit your place, how do you get here?
How do you mean?
Like where, like from Harare, is there like public transport getting people here?
Public transport's a bit dodgy, to be honest. It is possible, but most people would get a taxi. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I believe a thing called InDrive is very economical. They charge about $15 to get you from Harare to here. Yeah, but it is possible. But most people come in their own vehicles.
On vehicles,
Yeah.
right.
And then we've got chalets and I've got camping ground. So a lot of people.
There's a campsite here as
Yeah,
well.
we've got a campsite, we've got the chalets, and that all goes to supporting the bird park. So that,
I just have to say, I used to work in a campsite in Scotland.
okay.
But this gentleman called Hugh, and you actually, remind me of Hugh.
Oh, I hope not.
So, you were
Well, as long as he's Scottish and not English.
Scottish.
I'm joking.
Good old Hugh. Unfortunately, he died a few years ago. But yeah, I used to work. You remind me actually of him a lot. Right, Gary, where we go to the restaurant and we get something to eat,
Yeah.
try your food. Thank you so much for the interview.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we may be able to catch later as well.
I'm sure.
Cool, right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot and
You're welcome. Thank you.
take it easy.
Cheers. Hey, he's just calling his mother.
See you later, guys. Take care. Look at this. Ambassador of China was here.
Was to come to Zimbabwe and film interesting white Africans.
Wow.
So
All right, that's
so that one there, interesting white Africans.
interesting white Africans,
That
right?
is in a art museum in Paris.
And certainly, Gary, you were in there, right? As an interesting white African, right?
Well, there I have in the Land Cruiser there.
Yeah, you're there, right? Cool.
See the next one up here in the Land Cruiser.
Gary, many thanks. Yeah, Katrin Cooper as well. So you're quite known person, Gary, aren't you?
Not really.
A great persona anyway. Folks, we are...
Każdy biega salotosem, zmaga się z codziennym losem. Załóż dziś taneczne buty i do tańca idź o buty. Rower, zupa, rower, zupa. Złoto, kokos i banany, każdy w lądku zabiegany. Wszyscy wielcy eleganci, tak naprawdę